everyone, welcome back to the Library of Parthos. My name is Sarah, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This was a romance book that I decided to pick up as part of my February TBR. If you watched that video, I kind of decided to tack this book on to the end because I thought it was a pretty short book to read, and after picking it up and starting it, I realized that I was wrong about that. But I fell in love with it and I finished it super quickly anyway, so hopefully I'll still be able to finish the rest on my February TBR. So as always, I will start off with a very brief summary, no spoilers, and then I will get into some spoilers for the plot of the story and also share my thoughts on this book. So The Love Hypothesis is a story of a PhD student, Olive Smith, who has created this elaborate fake dating plot to convince her best friend to go out with a guy that she had dated in the past. And of course, you can, if you know anything about the fake dating trope, you can imagine how that ends up at the end of the story. Olive is also conducting research on pancreatic cancer, and so while this whole fake dating situation is going on, she is conducting research and looking for a lab that she could study in for the upcoming academic year, and that plays a major part in the plot of the story as well. Okay, so getting into the spoilers and some of my thoughts on the book. First of all, I have not read anything else by Ali Hazelwood. This is the first book that I've read of hers. Absolutely loved it. And from what I've seen, I think all of her books focus on women in some sort of STEM careers. And I absolutely love that. I think supporting women in some sort of STEM related field is super important. And so I think that it's amazing that she has written these romance novels with that as a major focus within them. So Olive, the main character in this story, is a PhD student, a medical student, and she is very invested in academic research that she is conducting as a student. I also felt like Olive was one of the most relatable characters because of her love of pumpkin spice everything. Totally me, 100%. So I think Olive and I would get along very well. I want to get into some of the plot details a little bit more so I can kind of explain my thoughts about those things. So Olive is, before she starts at Stanford, the university that she's currently at, she is interviewing, I believe, for a place in the graduate school. She's in the bathroom and is wearing expired contacts, which I wear my contacts probably much longer than I should when I do wear contacts, and I can kind of relate to the fact that that is a painful experience, though I don't think I've ever worn like expired contacts, but I don't really pay attention to that 1 month mark, but I know when it's time to change them. So she is kind of debating whether she wants to go through with more schooling. It's a big commitment, time, money, and so she's in the bathroom fighting with these expired contacts, and a man comes in because she accidentally went into the men's restroom, and they have this conversation where he asks what are her reasons for pursuing this type of research and this type of academic study. And her response is that basically she says, I have an idea for very important work, and I'm worried that if I don't do it, nobody else will. And he kind of says like that is the best reason to go into this field, and that is her inspiration. So she remembers that for years. Like I think the main part of the story takes place 6 years after that. And of course, it's not really a secret at all that the man that she had this conversation with was Dr. Adam Carlson, who is of course the like brooding, unapproachable professor that gives everybody like really bad reviews and makes them redo all of their reports and tests and all of that stuff. So she doesn't realize it's him. He knew it was her and has kind of been like pining after her for this entire time secretly. And that's all disclosed later in the book. Well, not even that much later. Like it's you figure it out pretty quickly. So I don't think I'm ruining any major like reveal at the end. So anyway, Olive dated this guy, Jeremy, for a period of time, and it didn't work out. He was much more interested in her friend than he was in her. So Jeremy is much more interested in Olive's friend On than he actually is in her, and Olive figures this out very quickly. It doesn't work out between them. However, Olive realizes that On is too good of a friend to actually try to date Jeremy, because she doesn't want to hurt Olive's feelings. So Olive devises this wonderful plan that is not going to go wrong in any way, that she is going to tell On that she has started seeing somebody else, and that she's like, you know, in this great relationship, things are going well, and it works well. She tells On that she's on a date, and On believes her, until On shows up at the lab that Olive is currently kind of hiding in because she's not actually on a date. So she's walking down the hallway, her friend is coming the opposite way, and she panics. The first person that she runs into is Dr. Adam Carlson, and she says, "Can I kiss you?" to make it look like she was on a date in the lab, because that's what you do, right? And so from then on out, things just kind of spiral, and it turns into this fake dating situation. Adam actually says this works out in my favor because he had some research grants that were being withheld because the department heads or whoever makes those decisions thought that there was a good potential he would be leaving Stanford, and they were kind of trying to, you know, keep him there. So he thought, well, if they see that I'm in a committed relationship, they might be convinced that I'm willing to stay here. And of course, as I already explained, Olive was hoping that by showing that she had moved on, her friend would feel comfortable enough to date Jeremy, and that is what happened. So they kind of set up these guidelines and this timeline. By September 29th, hopefully, Adam's grant funds will be released, On and Jeremy will be together, and they can stop their fake dating. And to make it believable, they have a coffee date every Wednesday. That's their that's their way that they're showing that they're in a relationship. And of course, Olive is into everything is like, you know, covered in sugar the way it should be, and Adam is very much more health conscious, I guess is probably the right way to say that. And so that they have a lot of banter over their differences in that regard, which is pretty cute. I like the fake dating trope because it wasn't just like oh, we're two people who have a common goal, so let's just pretend to date to get to that goal. It was that, but Adam also had this like giant crush on Olive, so it was like really sweet where he was like pretending to like just be okay with it, but like he was very okay with it, you know? And of course, Olive develops feelings for him along the way too, because he's much nicer to her than he is to everybody else. And I feel like I understand this. He's really not mean. He just has very high expectations for all of his students because, and I feel like this is a good point, like he doesn't want to send people out into the field that are going to do a poor job when he has the ability to work with them and to make sure that they are setting high standards for their research, and then that will carry on into their work outside of the PhD program as well. And so everything negative that he has ever said has never been about the people, but about the work that they're producing and to help them improve it. So of course, Adam and Olive find themselves in all these awkward situations where, like, you know, they have to do all the typical dating stuff. Like, she has to put sunscreen on him at a picnic because that's what you do. And yeah, so they end up in, of course, all these awkward situations. But it's not just about the romance. I mean, it's a romance novel, so there's a lot that's focused on the romance. But also, I feel like I just really liked Olive's like purpose behind her work. So her mother passed away from cancer, and she felt that the reason that this happened is because there weren't enough ways to detect the cancer early. And so that is her work, and like what she's focusing so much time and energy into is finding a way to detect cancer earlier, to start treatment earlier. And I just love that she's motivated by something that's so personal to her and that she knows would impact so many other people. Now, her advisor in the lab that she's currently working in is retiring, and so there's not a lot of new grant money coming in, not a lot of, it's just kind of very status quo, and Olive needs a much bigger place to be able to conduct this research. So she is looking to kind of transfer for a year to another university that has a bigger facility so that she can finish up this research. So she ends up contacting this professor at Harvard, I believe. His name is Tom Benton, and oddly enough, he and Adam are super close friends, and so he offers to take on Olive at his lab in Boston because, surprise, surprise, Adam does want to leave Stanford and go to Boston to work with Tom because they've both received grant funding on this project that they're working on together. Kind of toward the end of the story, they all end up going to this conference in Boston, and Olive ends up presenting some of her research at the conference. And I thought it was hilarious that Olive like knows all of the common tropes. And so like she couldn't find a room to go to the conference because all of her friends booked rooms without her because they assumed she'd be staying with Adam. And so he says like, oh, I'm gonna have a room for the entire weekend, but I'm not gonna be there for the whole time. So like, you're welcome to stay there. And she insists that she cannot do that because there's only going to be one bed. And he informs her that he did book a double, and she says, no, it'll be just one bed, because we all know that that is such a common trope, and she knows because they're in a fake dating relationship, it will somehow turn into a single bed. So I thought that was hilarious. It wasn't, it was a double. But anyway, so they go to this conference, and Tom ends up saying these really horrible things to Olive, and he tells her that really the only reason that he was going to take her on is because she obviously was using Adam's attraction to her to kind of, get what she wants, and she was probably going to do the same thing with Tom. So he was just kind of betting on her being that type of girl, and basically told her her research was derivative, there was nothing new about it, and she wasn't doing anything like worth doing at all. And of course she was absolutely distraught hearing that, but in an awkward situation because she couldn't tell Adam about it because that's his best friend. And she didn't really have any proof or any way to make him believe her. And so she's kind of really conflicted about this. She ends up ending their fake relationship because they've both achieved their goals. Her friends have been together for a while, they're doing great. Adam's research grants were released, and so there's really no need for them to be together anymore. And at that point she realizes that she had recorded her presentation for her advisor who could not make it to the conference, and she had also unknowingly recorded Tom saying all of those horrible things to her. So she's able to play that for Adam, and of course he believes her and goes pretty nuts on his former friend and ends up, I believe he gets fired, and they go back to Stanford and all is well. So that's pretty much it for the Love Hypothesis. It was a super fun read, just like a real easy read. The only part that was kind of challenging is I didn't know a lot of the like the scientific or medical terms, but it was still a really fun book to read. I enjoyed it. It was definitely a great read for Valentine's Day, being in like the whole romance time of year, and I can't wait to check out more of Ali Hazelwood's work. So if you've read any of Ali Hazelwood's books, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them, which ones you enjoyed the most. And if you end up reading The Love Hypothesis as well, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it too. So that is it for this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!